great times and some down times. And you know, I don't hardly remember the down times, but there were some, and especially the day when they told me that the most devastating day was when they said, Dusty, you got cancer. And I was like, there ain't no way. Because I used to call myself the kid, you know. I don't know if anybody ever called themselves a kid. That means that you're the baddest dude around. I said, there's no way the kid could have cancer. And then the second time was when I had a stroke like 3 years ago. And I was in the hospital, and the doctor, the nurse, you know, they always ask you like every 5 minutes, like, what's your name, where were you born? And I thought it was the stupidest question in the world. And then when I was about to be discharged, and she said, I gotta ask you one more time. And I said, okay, ma'am. She goes, what's your name? And I said, the Diva. She said, what's your name? I said, the Dada. She goes, oh no, you take your clothes off. Because we were about to clinch in Cincinnati, and the team had left to go back, and she take the clothes off, man, we gotta put you on a gurney and take you to the stroke side of the hospital. So I was thinking, man, if I'd have 5 minutes earlier, if I'd have left or been in a plane or someplace, and who knows, right? And it was a mild stroke, and they treated me right there. It was that kind of warning. So, you know, when you get warnings in your life, you don't really, you know, complain about much. Because a lot of people don't, you know, they don't get warnings. You know, my dad taught us to never complain, and my dad didn't like complainers. And I never saw my dad miss work. I never saw him sick in the bed. I know he got sick sometime. I just never saw it. Because, you know, men in those days were really taught to be, you know, taught to be responsible, take care of the kids, provide for the family. And, you know, that's what my dad did.
And you're the oldest of five, so
yeah, I'm the oldest of five.
So next man up.
Oh yeah, so you know, my dad said, "Hey man, I'll tell you a quick story." See, my dad, if your ankle's hurting, I said, "Dad, my ankle's killing me." He said, "Son, go get the X-Lax." I said, "X-Lax?" What do I do with my ankle? So I still told him where they so they need that. I said, "Dad, my elbow's killing me." He said, "Man, go get the X-Lax." And every time I would say something, complain, he'd tell me, go get the X-Lax. So see, I never complain now, because and I don't eat chocolate. People say, you don't eat chocolate. Like, heck no, unless it got a lot of peanuts in it. It reminded me of the X-Lax, so it's like,
yeah, cut that you know what out.
Oh yeah. And then I stole one thing in my whole life. One thing. And it was at Mr. Carl's store at Riverside where we used to live. And, you know, my mom would say, go down there and get like a quarter worth of cheese. And they had, I don't know, everybody knows, they had the big the chunk on sitting on the counter, and they cut it and measure it. And so Mr. Carl's was cutting the cheese, and I went and got a Mr. Goodbar. And, snatched it, and then I was ate it on the way home real quick. And then my dad goes, hey son, you got anything to tell me? I said, oh no, Dad. He says, crack a smile. I said, crack a smile. He says, smile. And chocolate all the time. He says, and you know I didn't have any money. Mr. Carlos had called the house, but that's how it was back in those days. Because see, back in those days, if you messed up in the neighborhood, somebody was going to call your parents or reprimand you themselves, and then your parents would say thank you. Yeah. But now if you reprimand somebody's child or say something, the parents will defend the child, and then you wonder why you're getting them out of jail 20 years from now. Yeah. You know what I mean? That was really where we're from. That's, you know, when the village was raising a child, and that was, I know people have said it 100 times, but that's, you know, that was raising.
Yeah. Speaking of raising a child, we all remember little Darren getting rescued at home plate by J.T. Snow when he was 3 years old. Now they have the Darren Baker rule. The Darren Baker rule, because you have to be 14 now to be a bat boy in the major leagues. Because what did Darren know? He was wandering around looking at the butterflies.
No, that wasn't it.
No.
No, let me tell you. He was a very balanced thought. He was the most qualified bat boy there was.
Even at 3?
At 3. I mean, he was on the job. I mean, this guy, he knew what to do. And what happened is, Larry
no X-Lax.
No X-Lax. But Larry Dare brought a kid in for the World Series. and nobody knew the kid. And see, everybody's kid would get their designated dad's bats. And so Barry Bond's kid, Nikolai would get his bat, Sean Dunstan's kid would get his bat, JT Snow's kid would get JT's bat. And so Darren didn't have a dad on the field, so he used to ask his mom, you know, what does dad do? All he does is just sit around. And so Kenny Lofton was his designated bat.
Okay.
And so the kid tells Darren, oh, I'm going to get Kenny Lofton's bat, and Darren goes, no, you're not. And so Darren ran out there before the kid could get it. And that's what happened. My mom had just called me the day before, well, no, that night, right for game time. She says, honey, I got a bad feeling, you know, Darren shouldn't be bat boy tonight. I said, come on, Mom. She goes, you never listen to me, you know. And so I said, okay, Mom. Then I let him be bat boy anyway, and then that happened. First thing I thought was my mom. So I got right in.
What situation?
Yeah, so I got in to my office. It wasn't 30 seconds. The phone rang. I said, oh, well, I didn't even want to answer. So I picked it up. She goes, Dusty, you don't never listen to me. I tell you. Bad boy, give me that boy. And then I said, come on, Mom. I said, I got to go. The present's there. She goes, oh, no. I tell him to wait. So I had to listen to my mom yell at me. So
She's always your mom, eh? Never gonna give up that.
I'm telling you, I'm 66 years old, man, but he's still telling me stuff. And I'm like, Mom, I know.
Well, so
those are moms.
That's a great untold
Right, guys?
story. You're hearing it for the first time. Your mom is the best, don't you forget
Yeah, and you better get used to it.
So, but Darren, you said, has got early acceptance at Cal, and
Yep.
he's got some game. What's the score?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Well, he plays short and second.
Oh, baseball, that's
yeah,
right.
baseball. And he's always wanted to be a baseball player, so he's psyched about going to Cal.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
Well, he's built like me, like I was, real skinny, but he has potential to get big, has big hands, big feet like my dad. And so, you know, he has like 2 little whiskers that he got to turn aside with that. Dad, can I borrow your, and I don't shave either, so, cause I use like a clipper, I have like, I can do one here, one there. Like that.
So, the B in Johnny B. Baker's for baby face, is that what that
No,
is?
I used to tell my friends, it was, they used to try to give me a nickname, cause see, my dad's from the South. My mom's from California, Indio, and my dad's from, and in the South, they'll just name the kid JC, right? Don't mean nothing. My name's Johnny B. And they said, what's the B for? It's just nothing. It's just Johnny B. And so I used to tell kids it was for, they tried to give me Beauregard, Buford. No, that ain't my name. So I tell them it's beautiful. They didn't go back in.
Well, what about the nickname Dusty?
Well, the nickname Dusty came from my mom. Nobody in my family's ever called me anything other than Dusty. Because my dad there's only one Johnny B, that's my dad. And so I was playing in dirt all the time when I was a kid. So the only guys that called me Johnny were guys that went to junior high school with me or elementary school, that the teacher wouldn't call you by your nickname. And so when somebody would call me at the stadium, they'd say, hey, Dusty, I go like this. And they said, Johnny B. And I turn around, it's usually somebody that I grew up with. There's a guy I grew up with in the crowd in here. It was Rusty and Dusty. Stand up, Rusty. Come on, man.
And Rusty.
We went to Central Junior High School.
Were you on the same Little League team with Bobby Bonds and Dusty Baker?
No, but Bobby was older than us.
Oh, okay.
We used to watch Bobby play,
Wow.
and he was hitting the ball further than anybody could hit the ball at that age. I remember talking to Dusty saying, I can't hit the ball like that.
I said, man, no way. I mean, Bobby was a stud. And the reason I played 4 sports, see, I moved when I was 15 from Riverside to Sacramento. And so, you know, I left Riverside and Rusty and all my boys, and I ended up, you know, hooking up with them later, you know, and I was always staying in contact with them. And then Rusty moved up here, I had moved up here, and you know, we grew up with you'll see him, but we grew up with Rod Piazza, and he told me, he called me, he said, man, he said, Rod Piazza, and the Mighty Flyers, they're gonna be singing, they're gonna be performing at Sweetwater. So I was like, really, man? I said, Rodney, and see, he used to be this kid that played the harmonica all the time, and it would like bug the heck out of us because he was terrible. And so now this guy, I hadn't seen him in 30 years probably, and we go there and he has like a whole box. He had 3 boxes full of harmonicas. He was Blues Man of the Year, and I remember that night we went to see him. There was this young lady. She goes, "Man, I love your music." To me, so I was like, "Oh, thank you." But he goes, what did she tell you? What did she think you were? I said, I had to just say thank you before she asked me to start singing. or do you know this song or that song? But, you know, music has been everything in my life and my family's life. I was in the choir at church. My mom wanted me to have some culture, and she made me take piano from like 8 to 12. And you know, because I wanted to play guitar, and she said that, you know, music is piano's the basis to all music. If you know how to play the piano, you can play anything. Look at the mothers out there; they go like, see, I want to go right to the guitar. You know, the guitar was like live. So my mom made me take, and I had to play these recitals in front of the church, and she made me play Hungarian Rhapsody followed by the Blue like this, and all the partners out there going and stuff. And so she used to make us go to concerts, not concerts. She used to make us go to like at the San Bernardino amphitheater out there. Make us go to these classical concerts, and I would she thought I liked it because I would sit on the other side of my mom, and I had my transistor radio dial games. You know, I'm from uncle. And so my mom, she thought I liked it. And she said, "Oh, we're gonna come next week too." I said, "Come on, Mom." And my mom wanted me to, like I said, she wanted me to play like Liberace. I wanted to play like Little Richard. When I saw Little Richard, something was wrong with Little Richard. Because I never saw a man wear makeup and stuff before, and I was like, man, I don't know. And so when I saw Jerry Lee Lewis, that's when I wanted to play the piano, because I saw him on the Ed Sullivan Show. I was probably like you guys. And he's playing Great Balls of Fire and beating on the piano with his feet and stuff. So I was trying that. One day, my mom, "You lost your mind? Get your feet off of that piano." I said, "Mom, I saw Jerry Lee Lewis on TV." And so every morning she woke us up with Lou Rawls and Tobacco Road every morning. And I hated that song. It was time to get up.
But you really crossed the cultural divide, because you go from the old school deep South parenting, you know, from a segregated day, to now you're in California.
Well, I was born in California.
Yeah, I know,
but it was still kind of segregated. And my dad, you know, my dad's second job was cutting lawns for the rich guys I went to school with. And man, I remember. And I lived right on the other side of Victoria Bridge, and I used to, and the Victoria Bridge, it circled around like this to the Victoria Country Club, and all the kids I went to school with, and so Rusty and his sister's good-looking sister, who I had a crush on. How much older was she than us, Rusty?
5 years.
But man, 5 years when you're 12.
Out of your league.
Yeah. And they used to come by my house every day because they kept their horses down at the end of and they come by the house and honk the horn, and I tell my mom I'm going down, you know, to the farm where they kept their horses. And so there was a guy that we worked over here, and he had an elevator in his house. And man, I was like, man, an elevator. I said, man, if I'm ever rich, I'll have me an elevator.
Well, you are rich now. You have an elevator.
Yeah. I got the elevator. I've been always wanting the elevator. Take me to the big house. Oh yeah. And so anyway, I can tell you. And then we went. You know, we'd always be singing on the way to school. And my dad, you loved Miles, which I didn't understand then because it was kind of out there. And my dad loved Miles, and he loved Coltrane, and Thelonious Monk. And my mom, she, I loved James Brown. My mom hated James Brown because she said he didn't do nothing but holler. And she said he couldn't sing. And but to me, that was like, it made me jump. And my parents used to have some parties, and they'd be dancing and jitterbugging. And my mom made me take like stuff in school, like we had to do the foxtrot. And in 6th grade, see, I was a stutterer, so I had to take speech impediment class and also dance after class. And so all my buddies would get on me, like, I'd be like, woo, they'd be like, woo, what? Couldn't make it funny, how kids are. And so, anyway, I had a great upbringing. My dad was Bobby Bond's little league coach. I wanted to be like Bobby. Bobby was a man in our town. And the Bonds were the people in our town. Rosie went to the Olympics. That was Bobby's sister. Robert, Bobby's older brother, played for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bonds were, who I wanted to be like. That's why it was, people don't understand, my relationship with Barry. I held him the day he was born. And so, we go way, way back as far as motivation is concerned. And, music was something that set the tone in my life. My mother loved Mahalia Jackson. She loved, Burt Black. Those are all her people. They were cool, but they weren't as cool as, the people my daddy liked. He liked, Muddy Waters. And, I was like, I was trying to understand Miles. I still don't understand Miles, but I like Miles, and I'm attracted to Miles the same way I was attracted to Jimi Hendrix later.
So what was more your thing? Singing, piano, guitar? Or did you have any game in any of those?
I thought I did. I was in high school when we left to move to Sacramento. We were gonna have a garage band, and I was gonna. We were singing Eric Burton and Animals, House of Rising Sun, and everybody knew that one. And so, I was the high school I went to when I left Riverside. First day of school, I looked around and I didn't see another black face. And I asked my brother at halftime, not halftime, at lunchtime, I said, hey man, you see any other black people? He said, no, just you. And so, it was us. And then some for sale signs came up on the street, and then I scored like 5 touchdowns, and they went down real quick. They took the signs down. So my dad was really always pointing out to tell us to, not be judgmental, and if a person's cool with you, they're, you treat them as they treat you. And so that's when I got into a different kind of music. 'Cause I remember in 8th grade, man, when the Beatles craze was like going crazy, I couldn't understand why the girls were just yelling all the time. The Beatles, they saw the Beatles, and I was like, and after moved up to Sacramento, then I started understanding some of their music and understanding the white dudes I was hanging out with, and then started liking, Buffalo Springfield and Mamas and Papas and the Doors, and then psychedelics came, and then I found out even after school, Rusty, his dad was a doctor or dentist in our town, Rusty. Doctor.
Hi, doctor.
Yeah, and I found out Rusty was a roadie for Lee Michaels. I was like, dang, man, that'd be great.
It's on TV, says I don't know when, right?
Oh, yeah. And so then we started going to concerts in Sacramento. Well, and I could do anything. My dad and mom got divorced my senior year, and I moved there my junior year, but my dad didn't want me to go to Berkeley. He said, you stay out of Berkeley. And I was like, why? And that's the first place I went. Because he didn't want me hanging around, he didn't want me hanging around the Panthers, and he really didn't go for Joe Baez. I don't know how he did it. He didn't like Timothy Leary. He didn't like none of that stuff. But I found that attractive. You know?
Yeah. Hey, a lot of people did back in that day. Then you get drafted by the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
So you go from California to the deep south in the early 70s.
Rough.
That must have been culture shock.
No, that was
Big
late.
time.
That was 67. And, you know, I never, I mean, they couldn't rent to us. Well, they didn't rent to us. I couldn't get off the bus to get anything to eat. You know, the white players, the cool white players had to get our food for us. And, I was like, man, I wanted to come home. And then the first game I played, and I dropped the ball. The first ball hit to me in my career. I was in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I started crying because they started calling me some names over there I never heard before. I was like, damn, that's a good one. I never heard of those. And so I started crying. I wanted to come home.
And you're like 18?
Yeah, I was 18. And, you know, I didn't know that they had a mental institution right next door to the ballpark. And that was on a Thursday, and every Thursday they would march the people from the mental institution into right field where I was playing. So, I didn't know. I was like, hey man, you guys are crazy, they really working.
Well, then your tears turned to laughter a little bit.
No, not really, but I
You didn't realize it at the time.
No, and so I prayed the night of drafted. I don't get drafted by the Atlanta Braves because I was a Dodger fan. Grew up loving Tommy Davis from Southern California. I ended up playing this position, wearing his uniform.
And the number 12.
And number 12. And, how many kids end up playing their hero's position? And so, and they gave me number 12 when I got to the, you know, to the Braves.
You asked for it? You just,
No, that was my luck. I don't know. They probably, you know, researched it.
I doubt it.
You know, asked my mom or somebody. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it might have just been luck. So I prayed, and I got drafted. And they said, "Hey, man, you're a proud member of the Braves." And I was like, "Lord, you didn't hear me." And then, you know, me and my dad stopped speaking because I went left without my dad's permission. I was supposed to go to Santa Clara, and I didn't want to go to another rich school. I didn't have a bicycle, and so I signed with the Braves, and that was one of the best things that ever happened to me because I got to meet the great Hank Aaron. He told me that he promised my mom that he would take care of me as if I was his kid, and he made me go to church. He gave me, I was over his house every day. I was closer in age to his kids than I was to him, and you know, he made me go home from the nightclub on the road. Cause, you know, 18, 19, I was in the big leagues at 19, so I'm free, man. I got free, you know, coins in my pocket, and got some decent clothes on, and you know, a few little girls. And so it was like I was living the life, you know.
Yeah.
Except Hank was my dad, but then he didn't make me, but you know, we went to meetings with Maynard Jackson and Andrew Young and Ted Abernathy. And my mom was a black studies teacher, so I was familiar with all these people, you know, Jesse Jackson, and so like I was a little confused, and music, you know, kept, you know, my confusion down some because at that same time I joined the Marines at 19. So here I was in the South. I joined down there in the South. I was like, you know, I wanted to grow an afro, but you know, afro and the Marines don't. It took my hair like 8 months to grow, you know, and so like, and then some of my buddies were killed in Vietnam, and some of them came home, you know, off, and it was like a very confusing time, you know, for me. And my best friend was white, Dennis Clute. We went to school together in SAC, and so my dad always told me to judge a man by how he treats you. And Dennis, I quit writing him. I thought, you know, there was going to be a revolution because we were on the brink of revolution. You know, everything was nonconformist to everything that could be. And so I was driving down the street. You'll see it in my book. I'm driving down the street in West Palm Beach, and you know, had a little pea head, and I was leaning, you know, when trying to be cool. And so I could feel somebody watching me. And I looked over, and it was him. And he had driven all the way to West Palm Beach, Florida, from Sacramento, to find out why I wouldn't answer his letters. And I was like, hey. So I was like, I thought about my dad. I was like, man, I mean, this is a real friend here. I don't care what color he is or what anything is anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, we still partners today.
So you're a Marine Reserve and playing baseball in the time when
Yeah.
All
From
heck is
69 to
broken loose.
75. And
all heck is breaking loose in
Yeah.
the streets of Chicago and
Oh,
Watson.
yeah.
Civil
Oh, yeah.
rights,
Oh, yeah.
movement and the like. What a
Ooh.
confluence of
Oh, yeah.
activities.
Segregation. I mean, then, you know, I was like, man, but, you know, like I said, what kept me straight was, you know, was music and different kind of music, you know, and then I played winter ball at the same time. I played like 5 months in Mexico, and I had 2 albums. Remember the record players that the arm came up like this one?
Stack.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
Well, but you had a sack.
Yeah, it's stacked at home, but I had 2 records there.
Okay.
I had Creedence Clearwater Revival, and then I had the Canned Heat. See, I love the Canned Heat because, you know, I was into the lyrics, and I was looking for that spot, 'cause I didn't drink then, and at all, and he's like, and he says, going up to the mountains where the water tastes like wine, and we're gonna jump in the water and stay drunk all the time. I said, yeah. And then I went to Puerto Rico to play the next year, and then we had a big concert at the Beathorn Stadium in Santana. He was playing, he was new then, and all these Puerto Ricans were acting like, man, I had the greatest night, you know, almost of my life down there. And then the next year, I played in Venezuela, and then I had a buddy on the team, he took me to see Diosdado. So we were always seeing somebody. We saw Bob Marley, Freeborn Hall, Davis. We saw, we saw Steve Miller Blues Band at Davis. We saw like Richie Havens, you know, at Davis, and we went to Winterland, and we saw Ike and Tina Turner Review, and you know, we saw Hendrix. Naturally, well, first I saw Hendrix at it was my 18th birthday, and my mom, I know I'm going back some, and my mom gave me 2 tickets to the Monterey Pop Festival, and me and my buddy went. Dennis, the dude that drove, he couldn't go, so my other buddy, he was working. So my other buddy went. My mom gave us $20, the use of the station wagon, a Rambler station wagon. Anybody here have a Rambler?
You know what? My folks had a Rambler station wagon.
Man.
But wait a minute, a peach Rambler station
We had a light, like Moby Dick. Hey, it was the greatest drive-in car of all time.
No seatbelts, as I remember. No,
Yeah, the seats went all the way down. You know what I mean? So, okay, kid. So, anyway, you know, we showered on the beach, and we went to the concert. And we had a flat tire on the way. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, we were going to get to Monterey. And we saw like some of the guys that we hadn't seen before, hadn't heard of before, like the Who and who else was there? Well, Eric Burton's there. That was
The Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead, who I didn't know at the time.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, I like Simon Garfunkel. You know,
Well, you have an eclectic taste. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You know,
And Otis Redding was there. And see, Otis Redding had died. He died shortly after that. We were going to go see Otis Redding that weekend, and I think the weekend that he died. And I'm staying over here at the Aqua, and I was going out there, and I was like, they got a dock out there, and every time there's a dock, you know, I think about Otis Redding, about sitting on the dock. And, you know, music takes me back to different. My son thinks, I'll tell you, the greatest trip that I've taken with my son was to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And if you haven't been there, it'll take you through different parts of your life. You know, when you're with this bad boyfriend or a good girlfriend, or, you know, and you say, hey man, I was over here at this time, I was in Chicago, I was in Boston at that point in time, and that's what music, it gives you a chronological timing for your life.
Yeah. So you have this passion for music. I ran into Carlos Santana at KGO a few years ago, and I turned a corner, and there he was. It was like, wow. Tony La Russa, too.
Yeah.
Interesting, coincidence. You talk about baseball and music.
Yeah,
So I said,
they go hand in hand.
Carlos, I saw you at the band these years ago, and it was transcendent. You just exploded. He goes, sometimes it's amazing when the music plays the band.
Wow.
And that's
good.
just personified so much. So tell me about the
Hey, man, I
parallel.
met Lazy Lester 2 days ago. Everybody know Lazy Lester?
No.
Oh yeah, the blues dude. You gotta get him if you can. He lives up in Paradise where my other buddy Brad lives.
Tell me what similarities or parallels that you see in your passion for music and what baseball is all about for you.
Well,
do you see anything that sync
Yeah,
up?
I mean big time. I mean, just like, when I think of baseball, I think of good times and bad times. Good years and bad years. Or like when I think of music, I think of like, Van Morrison, In My Garden, or either like Too Long in Exile when I was being harassed by members of the press sometimes, you know what I mean? And he says they're vicious and they're mean. And I was like, dang, man, you guys got the same problems in that industry that we do. And when I want to be mellow, I think about, I don't know, Dave, did we go see Steel Pulse together? Yeah, I was at the Warfield, that downtown, the Warfield. And it's like, I think about the different, we had a rain delay one day, and I had the greatest rain delay in New York, and they were playing Tom Petty and Heartbreak, Running Down the Dream, and I was there. I was out in the rain. The guy was like, "Man, what's wrong with you?" That was on that great video,
What was your walk-up song?
Well,
Did it play? Did you have
we
one?
didn't have no
Sing-
walk-up then.
Okay, if you could go back, Dusty.
Yeah, well, they played Johnny B. Good when I was in AAA. And so, but you can't pick it. They picked it.
Yeah.
Now, if I had a walk-up song, now it'd probably be like, Picture Me Rolling, I think. By Tupac.
Oh.
Yeah, see, I got a 16-year-old son, and so like, I'm trying to hip him like I was hip, except I'm not taking him to the concerts. I'm taking him to see 50 Cent and Lil Jon in Sacramento. My daughter took him to see Lil Wayne, and then when he was little, I think he went to see Lil Wayne because I used to take my daughter to all these concerts. I take her to Slams. I've taken my son to go see Buddy Guy's Blues Club, and so he keeps me hip on the new stuff. 'Cause I like it, but I don't know who Kumo this and somebody slow down Ed or something. And my son, and my daughter, is passing it down, to him.
Well, it's in the blood because you guys are all loving the music. It's
Well,
great.
my mama gave it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody, gave it to my mom.
So Dusty, music's great. You're growing grapes, turning into fine wine, and you got a sustainable energy company. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, because baseball misses you. I'll tell you that.
Well,
and you, by the way, a little aside. Dusty told me, and I didn't even realize, with Lloyd McClendon getting fired by the Mariners, there is not a single African-American manager in the major leagues.
Correct.
I mean, is that crazy? And only, 10 or 12% of baseball players, or even less than that
that's
now?
about
7 or 8%?
something like
And then when you played, it was 20 or more percent.
that. Yeah.
Now, what could you look to as a reasoning for that?
Well, part of it.
Big
is-
question, but
No, part of it is economics, I think. I mean, it's expensive for kids to play baseball.
all these travel leagues and everything.
Oh, yeah. I'm spending $2,500 a year or more. That's what I know of. My wife won't even tell me half of it. And equipment, like bats are $400 or $500. The bags, everybody has to have a bag. The gloves are $300 or $400 a piece. And the travel, and unless you're playing in a travel league. See, we used to feel good going to Yountville and that Sunken Diamond, or go to Woodland to play. That was a road trip. But now, man, my son, they're going to Florida, Texas, and Arizona, and then you got to pay your own way. And your room and board and food and everything else. I think that's part of it. Plus, baseball is using the colleges as a
Minor league
ground.
system.
Yeah, as a minor league system. And see what happens. Baseball only gives 11.7 scholarships per team. So most of the team is not on scholarship.
Yeah.
Or if you are on scholarship and you go into Cal at 40 or 50,000, whatever it costs, and you got to have scholarship, but somebody still got supplement that at $25,000. So, you know, I mean, baseball, and if you have 2 or 3 kids like we had, I mean, you know, I mean, there's no, my dad would have had to choose on which one was going to play, and my dad wouldn't have chosen me, he'd have chosen my brother. And that was one of the things that kind of motivated me. They were playing pinochle one night, all the boys, my dad used to, and the fellas used to play pinochle, and used to be in the Masons. Anybody here, dad was in the Masons? Yeah. Did you ever find out what they did?
Secret.
I am not lying. Yeah.
Look on the back of your dollar bill.
Yeah. And my
You
dad
still
had
don't
this
know.
ring, he had this ring, and I was like, man.
I didn't even know that Masons let brothers into it.
No, brothers had their own Masons. Everything.
It's like the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah, exactly. My dad, I mean, I didn't know that. I mean, my dad was in the Navy, but the black Navy. You know, everything was segregated then. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that's why I'm going. I mean, we had the greatest trip, me and my partner Dave, and I'm doing some work with the American Indians, and down with the Torres Martinez tribe, because we grew up with a guy, Rusty knows, and we grew up with a guy, Alex Torres. And Alex looked like a big light-skinned brother with wavy hair. Well, I didn't know that this guy was really American Indian. And so Dave and I went to Montana, and we stopped with our buddy Terry Heffernan's house, this barn cabin up there. We fished in Missoula, then we went from Missoula to Bozeman, we fished in Bozeman, then we went to hang out with 4 or 5 days with the chief of the Cheyenne and his kids. And that was one of the greatest trips that I've ever seen. To see, my mom was telling us that my great-grandmom, my grandmom on both sides were my mom's side was Cherokee, and on my part Cherokee, and on my dad's side was Seminole. And so most of us, whether we realize it or not, the whole bunch was mixed with American Indian. You know what I mean? And so like I took a page out of Phil Jackson's book when he went to live with the Indians, and so I'm gonna go do something in a couple of weeks in Cincinnati at the Freedom Center with talk about derogatory names and symbols and things like that, you know, for American Indians, because that's how my parents, you know, raised us.
So you wouldn't be a fan of Dan Snyder and the Washington?
Well, maybe it's a good thing I didn't get that job, because then I think
Yeah, the Nationals, you've been right in the same town.
So they're going to get on Dan Snyder, I'm sure, for the Washington Redskins. But you know, I mean, our family was a family where my parents were, you know, were strong believers in God and strong believers in you know, justice, you know, for everybody, because they were in charge of the NAACP in our town. I was in the junior NAACP, and so getting back to music in the church. See, music was big in the community, in the churches, and then my mama forbid me to go down to the sanctified church. You guys know what sanctified church is? That's like, she called them holy rollers. They had
Baptists?
No, we were Baptists, but they were like even more than us, because they had guitars and drums and stuff like that, and you could peek in the window and pick up some moves. And so I was in the junior NAACP. So we had our Reverend was Reverend Moss, and he would start preaching. And they had a lady named Miss McKinley. She was strong, man. She was about maybe like 6'2", about 215. She had a little husband named Eddie. He was like 5'8", like 150. And so Miss McKinley, she started getting happy when Reverend Moss, and he used her as a barometer when he was preaching good. when he wanted to bring the level up. And so he's like going like this and getting down. So when Miss McKinley started jumping like this, then he'd turn up the volume, and I'm in junior NAACP, so I'm standing in the hall on the aisle, and I'm seating people with my gloves on and stuff. So Miss McKinley and my dad, when Miss McKinley got happy, I like started trying to ease out, go to the bathroom. Miss McKinley is strong, man, and she threw me all over the room. So my dad gave me that look. Man, trying to tackle Miss McKinley.
Well, see, you know, you've been out of baseball for 2 years.
Yeah.
And you just almost got the Washington Nationals job. And I think the only job open now is the Dodgers. Boo! So a lot of people want to know.
No.
Know what?
Just no. Yeah, I'm just like, I thought about it, but I don't know if I like what they stand for anymore.
There you
You
go.
know what I'm saying?
What did they stand for when you played?
Well, when I played, man, we stood for quality play. You know, having some class and dignity about it, and now they stand for money. And you know, money can't buy you love, but money is having a hard time buying a parent too.
Yeah, sure. Have you talked to Magic Johnson at all about?
No, I'm not gonna put any pressure on Magic because that's my partner. You know, you don't put pressure on your friends. You know.
You figure if he's interested, yeah.
So,
I'd say if he was interested, he'd reach out to you. Is that the way you look at it?
yeah, I mean, they know. Everybody knows in Sacramento. They know how to
I
find.
know how to find Johnny B. Good Baker. Hey, questions for this man?
Yes, sir.
How much home runs do you have?
I hit 242 home runs. But see, I wasn't a home run hitter. I was just a good hitter. Okay? I could have played on the Kansas City Royals that day.
What's a good hitter?
A good hitter is a guy that doesn't strike out. A good hitter that can advance a runner, pick up RBI, score a run when you need it. You know, it's a full phase type player. That if I get a whole team full of those guys, I can beat you.
And clutch.
Right. And hit in the clutch.
Money hitter.
Right.
I mean, it's all good when you're up 10-0 or down 10-0.
Yeah, but I had some good teachers. See, man,
Who was your biggest mentor or the greatest mentor? You said Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron, but I had Orlando Cepeda. Orlando taught me how to, you know, he's the guy that changed my music around too. And
I was in the cha-cha.
No, but I was hanging with Orlando, man, and Orlando knew Eddie Palmieri, and he knew Bill Evans, and he knew all these Stanley Turrentine, and he turned me on to Hubert Laws, Ronnie Laws. You know, like he was more of a jazz man. He used to like make me like a little clown, and because I had to go sing to all his buddies, Berto Clemente. And these guys on the other team, and he'd call me over, and he'd say, "Come on, John." He'd call me, "John, come on, hit it, John, hit it." And I'd sing some Hendrix for him, and then they'd say, "Yeah, go, John, go." Go, John, go. Yeah, so I was kind of like a little clown, you know what I mean? But it was cool because they accepted me. And
You played in the glory days, if you think about it.
oh man,
Honey.
yeah,
Well,
Stargell.
Aaron and Stargell.
Oh, yeah.
Cha-cha.
Billy Williams, Pete Rose, Pete, they talk about Pete. Pete was one of the best teammates that I played against because, he brought your level of your game up and he appreciated me and my roommate, Ralph Garr, because my first year in the big leagues, I was third in the league in hitting, and Ralph was his second year in the big leagues. He was second. And so we came in beating Pete Rose. So Pete was like, "Man, you ain't," he says, "Nah." One day he told me, he said, "Hey, Baker." He's telling me, Baker, like, "Hey, Baker, how many hits you gonna get?" I said, "I feel like a 2 for 4. He said, 2 for 4? She said, "Why are you giving away 2 at bats before you even get to the plate?" I said, "And maybe that's why he got 4,000 and I got 2.
Quick yes or no answer. Hall of Fame, Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, you'd be surprised. There ain't no angels in there anyway.
Yeah.
People are thinking there are always angels in there. They just didn't get caught.
Yeah, right.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Where were you in the crowd at Monterey?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I don't remember because I wasn't doing anything then because we had a pact. Me and my boys, that all our buddies were doing stuff, we wouldn't be doing it. And it didn't last too long, but it was wonderful. And then when I saw Jimmy again in Sac State, a few months after that, and my buddies thought I was crazy because I liked it. But like I said, it kind of scared me, but I liked it. So. Yes.
I can't remember, was Janice there? And if she was, what did you think of her?
Yeah, she was there too. I saw Janice, and she was out there. Then I saw her again in Phoenix, Arizona, in the structural league that next winter. And I saw her. I think she was with. I think that's where I saw concert. I saw Blind Faith with Ginger Baker and Clapton in it. And then the hippies like stormed the. Well, anybody ever been to Diablo, Tempe Diablo Stadium where the Angels are?
Yeah.
Okay, that used to be, and that hill up there behind, are all hippies up on the hill. And then they stormed the fence and they kicked it down, and then everybody was just, it was a beautiful thing. And see, and the Braves used to ask me, they had a place, it's Midtown now, it's 10th Street. And, I used to go down there and make me feel at home, like I was in the Haight or Golden Gate Park. And they asked me why was I hanging down on 10th Street. And I said, hey man, I like being around the hippies. And he says, well, why? I says, well, I never saw two hippies fight. And if it was a slow-mo fight.
And nobody cared to remember who won. Anybody else?
Yes, Rusty.
So, I think a lot of people don't know, if you would talk about the Braves. You hooked up with Hank, talk about Hank's swing, single stroke, double stroke, triple stroke, home run stroke, and what you learned from him.
Yeah, well,
All of the risks right there.
yeah, but it's in its balance,
But what they don't know is there was a pitching coach taught you about what to look for,
Mhm.
the ball out of the hand.
Well, yeah, and also not only a pitching coach, it was Bob Beal. He was on the other team, and he told me to split the plate, and you can't look for both. And then I had a conversation that really helped me. This might help you guys with Jimmy Connors, and I was in Dr. Joe's office. I met every tennis star there was at the time. I was in LA. I met Garolitis, I met Mounting Noah, I met Tracy Austin, Billie Jean King. I met them all down there with ankle, wrist, or some kind of problems. So I asked Connors, I said, hey man, who's the toughest dude to return serve? Because I thought, still to this day, I think returning a tennis serve is unbelievable. Because I'm standing in a box and they have to throw it across this little plate. But if I'm playing tennis, I got to cover this area. Or if I'm serving, I can't serve it long into the net wide. Or if from returning the serve, it's 100-something miles an hour. I got to run over there and get it, and so it's tough. So I asked Jimmy Connors and said, "Hey man, who's the toughest guy to face?" And he says it was a guy. He said McEnroe because he masked his serve, and I didn't know what he was talking about. And he said there's a flat serve, which is a fastball, and there's a cut serve, which is something else. And usually it's a curveball. And he says you have this much time to determine if it's a flat serve or it's a cut serve. And I was like, man. And he says, I said, what do you mean mask his serve? And he says, well, Connors, McEnroe, you couldn't really tell which one he was. And that's the great pitchers are those that you can't tell in their delivery. Everything's the same. And seeing Barry Bonds was the best at picking up guys that lived with him and Hank Aaron, because Hank Aaron used to sit in the. I used to watch Hank Aaron all the time, because man, it was amazing because he peeked through his hat like to the hole at the top, just to get the guy's release point to see if he could see anything, any difference between his fastball and his breaking ball. Barry Bonds, he would like pick it up like this, and then he'd get perturbed because nobody else could see it. Barry, you're the only guy that can't see it. He said, come on, man, Marvin Bernard, you don't see it, Marvin? Marvin said, I think so.
Anybody else with a great Dusty Baker?
Dusty, would you dissect a little bit how good the Royals are? I mean, they're obviously playing at top flight level, but moving that line and what that means
Yes.
and how unusual that is in
Well,
baseball. And secondly,
now-
Pete Rose
Right.
is the star of the postgame.
Mhm.
You know, not when you were on, but
Right.
he
on Fox.
does all of it.
Yeah, well, I haven't watched it much, but like, number one, I'll go back to Pete. Pete would sneak into, when I was in Cincinnati, he'd sneak into the batting cage. He wasn't allowed to come in the clubhouse. So, I mean, that's like a master surgeon not being allowed to go to the hospital. I mean, he's already served his pen as far as I'm concerned. So Pete was peeking at him, and my son goes, Dad, that Pete Rose back there? I said, yeah. I said, hey, Pete, come on in. So my son was hitting it to the top of the net. He said, Lil Baker, he says, man, can you get one on the line? He goes, yeah, and Darren hits it. Then he goes, can you hit one to the back of the cage? He goes, don't ever hit the top of the cage. He says, you hit the back of the cage or hit it through the middle, which is the biggest hole, which is what the Royals do.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And you stay on top of the ball, you look fastball. Okay, these guys, now, and it's not okay to strike out. That's what's bothered me a lot. They say strikeouts no different than a ground ball at second base. Well, for ground ball at second base, you gotta catch it, then you gotta throw it, and then the other guy gotta catch it. Now, anything can happen if you put it in play. And the Royals have a great philosophy, a great idea. They play baseball the way it's supposed to be played. You know, there aren't many teams that I look at where I would enjoy playing with those guys. That's one of them. Because all this striking out and leaving runners on third, and less than 2 outs, and not advancing runners, and not playing good fundamental baseball, that's just bewilders me. I mean, because see, back in our day, you wouldn't have got out of the minor leagues if you couldn't, you know, do these things in order to play winning baseball. Because winning baseball, you play too many close games to. It's a team that makes the least amount of mistakes. A team that's gonna win most of the time. So like I love the way the Royals play baseball. I love the way they run. The speed. I love speed because listen. When I signed, I was straight speed. I had skills. I could run, throw, do all that stuff, but I had no power. I was a little skinny little guy. I hit 1 home run in Little League. I hit 1 in Pony League, 1 in Colt League. I remember very well. And then I hit 2 in American Legion because my dad, we played a game up in Grass Valley where the altitude's higher. I hit 2 under the trees up there. And I begged my dad, man, please, man, it's a smooth Grass Valley because I don't get some home runs. But for you kids out there, learn how to hit first, and then you can. And one of the greatest letters I ever got was from Joe Black when I was on the Dodgers. And because I came up kind of confused, because then I started hitting home runs. I hit like 6 in A-ball. No, A-ball, I hit 9. Then I hit 11 in AAA. Then I got to the big leagues, I hit 17. I was getting stronger. I hit 21. Then I hit like 20 and then 25. And then I started trying to hit them, and then I hit no more home runs. I didn't hit any more than I had when I was just trying to hit. So Joe Black, I don't know if you heard of Joe Black or not. He was the president of Greyhound Corporation. He was one of the, I think, the second or third black guy in the big leagues, played with the Dodgers. A brilliant man. And he wrote me this letter. He told me, Dusty, just remember that you're a hitter that can slug. You're not a slugger that can hit.
Yet that you hit 30 home runs with Yusei, Garvey, and
Yeah, but I
Reggie
wasn't
Smith.
trying to hit him. There was only one I tried to hit off of KR, and that was the last day.
And that was the 30th homer, the first foursome
Yeah.
on one team to hit 30 home runs. And is it true, the high five with Glenn Burke, you invented the high five?
That's what they say, man. I can't take care of it. I give it to Glenn.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he threw his hand up. What am I supposed to do?
You could have tickled him or something.
Back here like this.
Dusty, what's your relationship like now with the Giants?
Well, times, heals all wounds. And see, I left the Giants because I had talked to Bill Walsh and Bill believed you can wear out your welcome sometimes. I was 5 years as a coach and 10 years as a manager. I was 10 years there.
That's what Bill Walsh was, 10 years as a 49ers coach.
Yeah, and then Walter Schoenstein, one of the owners of the Giants, I just talked to him. He was a great man, and he told me that you'll never get what you're worth unless you're willing to leave town and go get it. And I didn't know what he was talking about. He explained to me that if you've been at a job, your company sometime will go out and bring in an outside guy and give him more money than they'll give you, and you've been there for 15 years. But then some other company will give you more money than where you were. And that was probably one of the saddest days that I've had in my life when I left, the Giants, because I love San Francisco, I love the Giants. I started following the Giants when Bobby Bonds signed, and San Francisco was my kind of town. It was like, to this day, when I go across the Bay Bridge going into San Francisco, I hope I go right at sundown, because there's no prettier sight than when the lights come on and you're going across the bridge there. And plus, you guys got the best attitude in the world, because I've been other places, and they're not as nearly as forgiving other places as they are here. People call themselves fans and stuff, but you guys got the best.
Well, you're a San Francisco kind of guy, Justin Baker, and it's been a privilege to be here with you, and thanks so much for coming by. Give it up for this man.